there are many good experts out there, people that know how to market, how to promote, how to sell, how to build a relationship. But you and I, Austin, we cannot listen to everybody's podcast, watch everybody's video, take everybody's course, take everybody's class, go to and attend everybody's webinar. It's literally impossible. And I realize for entrepreneurs that are trying to, grow, because the world is built on the backs of entrepreneurs, which is a different talk. And I know that if I bring good information to entrepreneurs that are trying to grow, it would help them speed up. Because frankly, and you know this, Austin, everybody listening to this right now, you can figure things out. You can. And you think you can figure everything out. And you can, and you do think that you can figure everything out. But it can take a long time to do it. So what I want to do is I curate people at the top of their category, whom I think I coined it, but maybe not, elite entrepreneurs. That's what I've been calling them for 10 years. And I bring people at the top of their category who, just like I'm doing now, tell how they made it to motivate, inspire, educate, and perhaps give guidance to others. And that was my platform. And which is in a separate conversation is, at that same time, I developed something that I called the Vision Map.
Overpressure refers to the sudden increase in pressure above the surroundings caused by the wave generated when something explodes. It propagates outward from the origin, capable of causing impact, momentum, or disruption, depending on its intensity and distance. It is a critical factor in assessing the effects of a mission. Welcome to the Overpressure podcast, where we dive into the explosive world of business for entrepreneurs who are vets or veteran entrepreneurs.
Welcome to the Overpressure podcast. I want to intro you to Tony Durso. This guy has done it all. He's an LA powerhouse. He's gotten 50 million plus listens and 5 times bestseller. So want to bring up Tony, one of my personal inspirations. Hope you guys enjoy. Hey everyone, we have Tony joining us today and super excited. It is a privilege and an honor to be able to have somebody of your background on my own show. So welcome. What brought you into the world of podcasting? Because now you've become this major voice in the space and truly making an impact. So what was the early lead into that entire world? Because you've been doing it for over 10 years, you said.
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. It is an honor to be on your podcast, and I hope to help your audience grow. I have been in marketing and promotion for several decades in what I call corporate America. And in 2007, I had my own marketing lead generation company, which went well, except 4 times in 7 years, Austin, there were federal regulations and protocols, much like we had in 2021. And it just shut everything down. It just stopped all marketing. But if you can believe that, 4 times in 7 years, I got really tired of it. I go into my office on a Monday. One of my clients doing $1 million a year in sales on just this one client, and they canceled. What happened? Well, another federal regulation came down, and they had to retool and replan and whatever, and they could no longer accept or perform or do or whatever marketing. They had to retool. And same happened with all my customers. I got really tired of it. And I was thinking, what can I do that I can control myself as best as possible? And I kept hearing this word called podcast. And I'm like, what's this? And when I found out, Austin, was like, hey, I can do this. I'm Italian. I can talk. So I did the silly thing. I studied whatever I could at the time for about a couple of weeks and jumped in live, an hour a week live podcasting, which I don't recommend doing so soon, but I learned by the seat of my pants, and I used all the knowledge that I had with marketing and promotion. And it's changed heavily over the years. It's changed again with AI. But the one thing, fortunately, Austin, are the basics are the basics. So I just marketed the heck out of it. And that was really how I started, was I wanted something I could control. And when you podcast, you, if you know, depending on how you set it up, you could do it anywhere in the world. So I like that freedom and not having bosses. So that was important.
Yeah, I only have the boss of myself, which is its own challenge. But what skills were you able to take and really apply from the world of, running a marketing agency and apply them over into what I normally call new media? What were the most valuable things in that transition?
I'll try to give it to you how it was back then, because over the years, it's evolved. But what I relied on was that basics were basics, and I didn't realize anything would change. We had, 4 key players: Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, not even Instagram at the time was a big player, 3 big players. And I just knew that if I would promote and tell people that I have this, that they will come. And it works to a degree, except if you're in the forest and you take an easel and you put your book on it and you try to sell it, it doesn't happen because you're not where the people are. And I know that's a very silly, but idea or concept, but it's that sort of premise. So I took my show, even though it's a podcast, and brought it to people that I felt it would resonate with, that they would like. And I went on social media and I built my social media primarily on Twitter, which at the time was the biggest. And even though it may or may not be the biggest now, it is the platform where the heads of the states of the world rely on. So for all you in the audience out there, it is something to consider. And so I maintain a big presence on Twitter. It is my biggest channel or platform. And so I realized that by just telling and communicating what I have, that I would bring people. And I did. I did events. In the Los Angeles area where I started all this. I did a lot of events. I did a ton of talks, and just everywhere I could, I was, in a way, a walking commercial, but not too bad. But wherever I was, I communicated. Somehow I would find a way to communicate and talk about my podcast if I could, or which was based on the other premise. It's like another tangent is, Austin, there are many good experts out there, people that know how to market, how to promote, how to sell, how to build a relationship. But you and I, Austin, we cannot listen to everybody's podcast, watch everybody's video, take everybody's course, take everybody's class, go to and attend everybody's webinar. It's literally impossible.
Right.
And I realize for entrepreneurs that are trying to, grow, because the world is built on the backs of entrepreneurs, which is a different talk. And I know that if I bring good information to entrepreneurs that are trying to grow, it would help them speed up. Because frankly, and you know this, Austin, everybody listening to this right now, you can figure things out. You can.
Yeah.
And you think you can figure everything out. And you can, and you do think that you can figure everything out. But it can take a long time to do it. So what I want to do is I curate people at the top of their category, whom I think I coined it, but maybe not, elite entrepreneurs. That's what I've been calling them for 10 years. And I bring people at the top of their category who, just like I'm doing now, tell how they made it to motivate, inspire, educate, and perhaps give guidance to others. And that was my platform. And which is in a separate conversation, is at that same time, I developed something that I called the vision map. And I developed it and created that for me, for my podcast, and taught it to others. And we could talk about that. But those are some of them. Right now, there's 3 different, if you want, tangents or that shoots that went off that helped me really get things going. And it really worked very well for me.
That's I can absolutely apply that to myself. So thank you for that. The other major thing about your background is, of course, the books. Which came first, books or podcasts, or was it really simultaneously? And I know you had the contribution on Chicken Soup as well. So like you've had a major impact on that front as well.
Thank you for that. I think the first thing, before I podcasted, right around that time I podcasted, I wrote a book called The Black Book of Sales Secrets. And I was very naive, and I didn't know anything that I do now. And I got to tell you, has nothing to do with magic, which I don't like, or any sorts of things like that. It was just back then we were naive. We thought it was a cool name, hey, it's a cool name, Black Book of Sales Secrets, and because I'd been in sales for 3 decades in what I call the corporate world. And at that time, over a decade as an entrepreneur. So I taught how I did my sales, how I did social media, whatever was available at the time. And the book did okay, but it didn't hit number 1 on the charts or anything. I didn't really have a social media following, and I didn't know anything. But the learning experience, Austin, was tremendous. And from that book is why I tell the little silly story anecdote of, if you take your book and put it in the forest, how many copies are you going to sell? Who's going to know about it? And I learned right away that the book could be good, all the procedures, all the steps, everything could be good. But if people don't know about it, then how's that going to work? So I realized and put in my vision map how to get the message to people, how to do, get the book out. And my second book, called Easy Sales Procedures, which was a rewrite of the Black Book, that hit number 2. And I was just starting. I was just in a podcasting a year and a half, and that hit number 2. And I realized that, as we can all figure it out. I realized I'm onto something. I've got it figured out, and I just kept making it better. And I've gone on to produce 4, 5, 6 other books. 4 of them have made number 1 actually on Amazon. The last one went international, multiple countries. I went number 1, but it's all a matter of promotion and push. It's not. I didn't fall out of bed or fall off a log or whatever the phrase is. I figured out, okay, this didn't do well. What happened? What do I have to do? There's a lot of perseverance, a lot of work. Just like when we said at the very beginning, Austin, about being an entrepreneur, and you gave a little smile and it was like, yeah, I can relate with that. Everyone here listening that's an entrepreneur, you understand 80 hours a week. You understand 100 hours a week. You know what it means, but you're in charge, and you call that having fun. So, and that's what it is with anything, with the books, like, these are some of my recent books here. That's how it kind of worked. And I've been putting out a book, maybe not quite every year, every 1 to 2 years, and they've been doing good.
Very good. So that's how you started bringing it to the present. What are you doing with it now? Like, what lessons have you learned along the way to really help grow a business around it? Because obviously the book sales are a part of it, and I'm sure you have something on the podcast front. But how do you run the business now? What principles do you operate off of?
Okay, let me digest that a little bit.
It's a lot.
How I run the business, well, for me, I'm very, very specific niche on the podcast. I've really simplified things. This is not the Tony 9 years ago, 7 years ago. Every year I would have had a different answer. I am like doing 65 miles an hour down the freeway, and you hit that cruise control, and that's just kind of where it's at. So I've simplified at this point in my life. I've simplified things. I've focused more on what's important, and and I've just changed and not coasting is not the right word, but making sure everything is still going, and I don't have to do those 80-hour a week, at all. I don't have to really do that. I've got my plan. I've got my strategy. I've got my vision. I have my purpose. I have these 8 steps. There's only 8, folks. There's only 8 steps in the vision map. I have these 8 steps so well focused that even when something new comes, I can pivot, switch, and keep the podcast going. When AI, I've been, I don't mean, how do I say this in the proper terms? I see a bombardment. That might be a good way to say it. In AI, I mean, a ton of social media posts, and I can spot quickly what's AI driven or not. And it's changed things. The demand for attention has changed things. The people listening to my 60-minute episode, things have changed over the years. And I see, lots of changes. I know I keep saying that word, Tony, but so I've learned, well, how do I expand, take on another social media platform, start doing shorts. You sometimes have to pivot, switch, and adjust with what's happening. It's a big loaded question, but I just keep my fingers on the pulse and make sure that the podcast goes out. My show's booked out for about a year. And I try to keep it there. I've had it booked out for 2 years before, but it was just too far ahead. So now I just keep it down to booked out for a year. And I just see that everything is rolling. My podcast is rolling. My guest is coming in. And believe it or not, I think, I could be wrong, I do a lot of it myself.
Okay.
I hire people to do things, but I know where I want to do it. And I just because I know how I want something done, I'll do it quite a bit, like posting. I do pretty much all my social media posts myself because I know what I want to say. Even AI, some person anywhere, how do they know this guest and what happened and what we talked about? So I quickly learned that I should just do my own posts, and because I know, because it's real, and things like that to help keep and bring and attract more people. It's work. It's work. I don't know personally that anybody that podcasts can just, say it's a walk in the park, because you have to keep your finger on it. Just like with anything. I could give silly examples all the time. If you're living in New York and your family's in Los Angeles, it's very difficult to keep the relationship going. I know it's absurd, but it's that real. You have to be there where it is and just keep things going. And I've learned that. I've learned that through the School of Hard Knocks, which I call myself a double PhD. It's a lot of answer to the question. I'm happy to go anywhere more that you want on any points.
You brought up an interesting thing with the change, and I'm curious from your perspective, what has the audience change been like? How has the perspective of, the people listening changed? I mean, the feedback loop over time, because, we do have AI coming in now. Have you seen a change in your listeners or even the listener base with that shift?
Absolutely. If I didn't do anything, it's like it would just drop off. If I didn't keep active, and the reason I say that, and I'm going to explain this point, these words, Mercedes-Benz, AT&T, Chevrolet, Coca-Cola, Ford, Toyota, you know them. Why? Because they continue to put out commercials and advertisements, say, I'm here, McDonald's. Everybody listening knows McDonald's. You may not eat there. It doesn't matter if you like the food, their name because they spend whatever millions, billions on promoting. And I learned that you have to keep promoting and promoting and promoting no matter what. So when I started seeing shifts go on, because, nobody said, oh, you're losing audience interest because of AI or people are listening less. Nobody said that, but you kind of have to think about it and go, where's everybody going? What happened? My caliber of guests, I think, are consistently high and world class. I mean, I had Howard Biharan who took Starbucks from 28 stores to 15,000. I mean, that's quite the guest to have on. So you have to look at everything and go, well, the talent is there, the guests are there, the show is there. I've improved on so many things. And so you have to go, well, where are the people? So you have to continue to promote. And so I've increased my promotion to help and continue acquiring my market share or grow my market share. That's very, very important in podcasting, because there's whatever 2-3 million podcasts out there. They fade, they disappear, a lot of them, but more keep going up, and they should. But there's ways to do it, and there's ways to do it right. So you have to learn how to really run the game to keep it going. There's no tricks, but just to keep things going. Sometimes you have to run just to keep up and to keep pace.
That's 100% in alignment with what we preach constantly to our clients, of consistency pays off more than anything else. And I can definitely see that in this competition for attention, that just constantly being there. And I should have recognized the same lesson, because I've heard the, McDonald's thing. We all probably know what their special is right now because they advertise so much. But it's a powerful tool. So what's the big plan moving forward, or as you call it in your framework, the big picture?
I'm continuing strong on the vision map, and I opened up. Is that the right way to say it? I created or reformed a newsletter which goes out twice a month, which you can find on my website and get to it. And millionaires, billionaires, and all world-class CEOs are subscribed to it. And I've used that to grow and keep people interested in the shows and what I'm doing and what I'm providing. And it's actually gone very well. So I've learned I've got to keep promoting. And one of those, what do I do to keep attention, is put out that newsletter, which goes out twice a month, which says, hey, Austin, I'm here. Hi, Austin. Hey, I'm here, Austin. And it just keeps repeating what's going on. And I'm trying, and I've expanded it to, here's podcasts I like. Here's other podcasters I put on there. These are good episodes. Check it out. This interview, I know I'm going to like it anyways. I'm just being silly. I'll put that in my newsletter. Say, hey, check this out, But they're not all about me. It's just, podcasts that I like, or books that I like, or something really unique that I like. I try to do that and keep it a little bit of everything without being a mile long, right? And that's done very well, and it keeps growing, and people are liking and enjoying the newsletter. So that fits with what I was saying earlier, like, well, how else can you reach people? What other platform do you go on? And I am playing with, is that the right way to say it?
I think so.
With music.
Okay.
When I started my podcast 10 years ago, I created a music piece. I created it with the rudimentary tools that I had. This is before AI, folks. And I call it Flying. And it was the intro and extro. That means the beginning and the end part of my podcast. And, people had to listen to that music, and it's been downloaded like over 1 million times. And so I realized I might have something there. I created some other music, and I created a new podcast theme. And then it hit me just recently, I should do a music video. I've created 7, 8, 9, 10 songs now. And so I'm working on putting a music video, and I'm just going to put that out there, and they're free. You don't have to pay me any money to listen to it. And so it's just another way to, show more people another dimension of me. I'm putting up a music webpage on my site. I'm going to put my music there. They're music videos. So they're 2-3 minutes long. So they'll go on shorts. They're not shorts. They're full length, but they're only 2-3 minutes. Put them on TikTok and YouTube. So I'm starting to do things like that to just get more out there, because if the premise, whether it's right or wrong, that people are listening less to something, then I'm going to give them more of me to find out about. Give them music videos, give them my newsletter, give them different things like that, give them free downloads. And so that's what's new. That's what's coming ahead. And you're gonna hear and see the video on flying very, very soon on my TikTok. Which, by the way, my name is Tony Durso. On some social media, there's a S, so it's Tony Durso. Sometimes it's just Tony Durso. But one way or the other, you can find me, and everything is at tonydurso.com. So,
Awesome.
so it's just a good way to get stuff. And behind that, which we didn't really go into, and I'm just going to say one sentence and leave it, is the purpose. Well, I did go a little. It was just really to help people. And I know that I've got some good stuff and good material. And again, it's all free, so you don't have to pay. And it just helps you as the entrepreneur do better. So I think I need to pour more on that because I really don't sell anything. Not much. I mean, you can go to Amazon and buy my book, but I don't push it in your face. I'm trying to give you free interviews every week.
Well, I think it ties back to what you started off with of keeping it simple. Being on social, doing a newsletter. Like these are very, very easy things for people to do. And that with consistency has built something amazing for you. And now I want to go into like, how do you handle pressure? Because, you have these giant guests on your show. You have so much going on. You have podcasts booked a year out. How do you handle the pressure behind that?
After 10 years, I don't think I have any pressure, but I do have an answer nonetheless. It used to be when I first started 10 years ago, Tony here, I had to make sure I had a good night's rest. It was so important to me, and before I did the interview with, whoever it was, just keep my mind free. Don't give me any bad news, I kept a little bubble around myself because I was so focused on doing the interview and what do I say and who's on. And these, they weren't world class, but these were people who did very well in their lives, and I took it as a honor to interview them. And so I was a little more structured, and over the years, it's like Austin, when you first learn to drive, you're like, okay, here's the seat belt, the windows, this window, the rear view window. Okay, the keys on. There's nobody here, nobody to the left. You go through this, but now 10 years later in podcasting, Tony just jumps in and goes. Well, because I do everything really, really fast. So the problems don't impact me so much. And because I'm into music, if I feel it, I'll just play some of my songs right before I do the interview. And it doesn't matter what happened in the world or what bad news comes. I'm like, I'm flying. No pun intended with my song, but that's a good way to pump yourself up, because before then you could see if I had some bad news, I'm sure you could have read it on my face. So how do I go on? And I didn't sleep well. Now, I don't even care if I sleep. It doesn't matter, because I know I'm going to do the interview, because I've done this 1,000 times before. It's like, you don't have to worry, get mentally prepared to eat your lunch. You've done it so many times. So I'm not, it's not about ego. It's just, when you do it so much, it's like, you know what I mean?
I do. I'm that way with interviewing. Like, I've been on so many interviews that even when I forget where I'm at, I'm like, I can reshift and get back just by like, oh, it's 14 minutes in, I should be asking this question. So it's that repetition. What's something that's happened along the way that was just a complete blown up situation?
I don't know. You were looking for something like, well, to me, the AI was slow, but when you watch the statistics, you watch them over time. And so over time, you see things dropping or changing. So it's not sudden, even though, and then at some point, this aha, not aha, that's the wrong word. This, oh my gosh, what's going on comes, and that's when you realize you've got to pivot, because what else are you going to do? You know, you do more promotion. When things aren't going well and you're not getting your sales or your products or your audience or your listeners, you have to do more promotion and grow on platforms. 7 years ago, Tony would tell you, take one social media platform and grow that big, and then take a second one. And I've done that really well. I've got several 100,000 followers. So it's a different advice for at a different level. But nothing really seems to blow up. I mean, the world blows up. The answer to that is just turn off the news. And what's amazing? When you don't watch the news, there's nothing bad happening. It's like, wow, it's all good news.
That's fair. On that note, there's so much going on in the world, but what's something that you rarely get to talk about that you really enjoy talking about?
Probably my music. You possibly see me light up because I really like it, and I've never had the availability to perform or make or create music the way I want. I've written over 50 songs, 50 rock songs and pop songs in my head. I only produced one, so I'm the one-hit wonder with a million downloads, but I didn't have all the tools and availability to create. I would not consider myself a musician of any kind of caliber whatsoever at all. I'm nothing. I'm a zero. So when AI came out with some music features, even rudimentary, 10 years ago, I used the computer to help me, but it wasn't AI. I just used whatever tools were out there to help me with my drums or with my guitar and et cetera. But today there's a few more tools. So I'm very, very excited about that as to get out my message.
So
but my songs don't have anything to do with podcasts. I'm not singing the lyrics about podcasts. Hey, Austin, you should podcast and how to podcast. They're not in my songs, but it's just another part of me. And my attempt is to bring that to people as the solution, as to offset this heavy push on AI and technology. And I'll use that. I do use AI to my advantage to push out my message, but I do it, as I mentioned, in a way that's very real and authentic. And that's what's my excitement is. I don't know if I figured it out. When I see the podcast numbers later, I'll know, but I think I'm onto something to, when I was growing up, there was this adage of, when the going gets tough, you just get tougher, something like that. So it's kind of like that. So you just have to get smarter, bigger, better on promoting.
Yeah, I forget which one of our mentors said this, but they said it doesn't get easier as you get bigger and growing. You just get better. And I think that's kind of in that same vein of, things don't necessarily get easier over time. You just learn more, you find out more about the situation, you get better tools, and you move forward. But
and I'd like to share one really quick, fast thing about that, which just came to my mind. I've never shared this before, I don't think. If you in the audience, anybody, if you have a job and you make $100 a week, and let's just say you live on $100 a week and you make that and you have that job, you're good with that. And if something happens and all of a sudden, now you're offered $50 a week. Well, you've made that $100 a week, and so you can step up to it. It's not an ego thing or anything. It's like, I'm going to make that 100, and it's with 1,000 or 10,000. If you make $1,000 a week, and all of a sudden something comes along and shuts you down, but you can make that $1,000 a week. So if you've made it before, you can make it again, even if it's a different way, because you've been there. And that's really important when you're big, as you say, and something happens. How do you bounce back? Well, you've done it once, you've done it before. And that is a really big lesson that I learned early on in my podcasting.
Love that. And I think that's an excellent point to wrap up. You already told people about your website. Is there anything else you want to bring up before we go?
Well, all roads this is my new slogan here. All roads lead to Tony. TonyDurso.com. You'll find my podcast. You're going to find my upcoming video, music. You'll find my books. You'll find my music. I think I said that. You'll find my social media, everything at TonyDurso.com. And I really thank you. And I hope we've inspired a couple of people to even push forward even harder.
Thank you, Tony. And it was a pleasure.